טוב. Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Avi Leghziel. I'm the Executive Director of the Educational Design Unit at Masa. We're going to spend some time together trying to unpack what makes a productive, immersive career development experience. I know that right now it sounds like a lot of big words, and actually our goal for this time together really to drill down and understand how it looks like in practice. So a few words about Masa. Masa Israel Journey is a joint initiative of the government of the State of Israel and the Jewish Agency. Our goal is to bring to Israel young Jews from all over the world, aged 18 to 30, when the idea is to allow them to go through transformational experiences that focus mainly on leadership development and career development, programs that are immersive. We're going to try to understand what it means in a few moments. 2 months and longer, 2 to 12 months, when most of the programs are 4 months and longer. About 12,000 participants joining the programs every year from all over the world, about 140 and 150,000 alumni. And I think that when we try to understand what immersive means, we try to take one word that is very high up there, and we try to understand what is the feeling that word raises into us, but how it actually looks like when you have to design a program. What we're going to do together in the next 40 minutes is to work and hear from the protagonists of our programs, which are here, Masa participants and alumni, and try to understand together with them how can you nail down to at least some of the components that make that experience a productive experience. And I want to say one more word about the word productive. Why am I using the word productive rather than other trendy words like meaningful or inspirational? I think that the main point is that we do want inspirational programs. We do want programs where the participants feel that are immersed in Israel and Israeli society. We do want them to be meaningful times, but that is probably not enough for a program that is 2 months and longer. We do want programs that the participant at the end of the program can say, after 2 months, after 4 months, after 10 months, I now am able to do ABC. I learn how to be DEF. Those are my new skills. This is my new expertise. I widened my network, etc., etc., etc. I invite you all to interrupt me at any point, including participants. We also have some of our senior organizer staff, so feel free. And let's start from that question of what does it mean to have an immersive program? What makes it successful? How do you build a successful immersive program in Israel? So the first answer that might come to mind is Israel itself. And that's 100% true. There is a lot of value in the Israel experience in Israel. There is a lot of value in the local ecosystem. There is a lot of value in the local culture, and there is a lot of value in falafel specifically. But we do want to focus not only on that part, which is incredibly interesting, just to understand it. We do want to focus also on the part that might be replicable, that can be taken and maybe implemented in other areas. And in order to do so, I'm going to start with a very easy concept, as you can see, from a place that is actually far away from Israel, from a place that is actually very different from Israel, which is Norway. And there's a new startup which I read about just a couple of weeks ago, that tried to define what makes Norwegian people so happy. Apparently, they are happier than the average. And they try to understand how to make that happiness profitable. How can we take that muscle and teach it to people coming from outside of Norway? And they define it with this word, which I'm not even going to try to read it. Well, the rough translation is freedom to roam. As in, Norwegian people can just go out in the wild or go out in the city and taking a look around and investing time just in wandering, just in exploring the space and going around. Now, I think that for most of us, that's an experience that we know very well. Think about that time that you went to a foreign country and you had the map with you and you knew exactly where you wanted to get, where you wanted to reach. You knew what is the destination, that touristic spot, that incredible restaurant, that fascinating landscape. But when you were on your way, you suddenly looked on your left or you looked on your right and you found out that there is this very interesting street that you didn't notice and you didn't even know that is on the map, but it's colorful and it sparks curiosity in you and you want to explore it. And if you wouldn't allow yourself to have that freedom to roam, you would lose that experience of just getting lost in that street for a few moments or for a few hours, getting something out of it, following up on the previous talk and, being in that present moment, and then going back to your route to your destination. What? Or not. Great. Or not. Or just following the street. Or staying in the street. And I think that idea of exploration is exactly what's at the core of that Israel experience. I would assume, and you are welcome to tell me if I'm wrong, that an 18 to 30 young professional that decides to come to Israel has a goal, or might have some goals. And they come here in order to get to that goal. But they don't come just to a program. They come to a country, to an incredibly rich country, to a country with a lot of resources, with a landscape that is so rich and resourceful from a human, social, cultural, spiritual, professional perspective, that it would be a shame not to explore it, or not to understand what is there on the landscape that can serve their own goals or not, or just discovering some new areas that are interesting and relevant to them. So just to sum up what I've been saying in the past few minutes, if you're saying that we want to design immersive programs, and if you're saying that an immersive program is a program where young professionals can explore whatever the landscape allows them to follow their goals, or just to find out new, interesting, relevant stuff, how do you design that program? And now we're going to work together on that. So we've got here a series of Masa participants or alumni. Can you please raise your hands? Which are the actual relevant, interesting content of the session. And what we're going to try to do now in the different tables is just to try to unpack what are those components that make a good, productive, exploratory experience. Again, a productive exploratory experience. And it's going to work in the following way. I'm going to raise some questions, one after the other, and I'm going to ask you or ask our participants and alumni just to share their insights and thoughts with the other people in the table. Again, the goal is to try and articulate what are those components that make a productive career development experience. So the other people in the room, I don't know you, but you're welcome just to ask questions or to try to talk together and discuss with the Masa participants and alumni to understand what are those components and try to give them a clear name just to gain clarity over it. And then we're going to just try and learn a little bit about it. We're going to share a little bit. And by the end of the session, we're going to do our best to have some sort of model, which probably is not absolute, but it's a beginning. Is the goal clear? Great. So again, just raise your hands, Masa participants and alumni. You also see the shirts, so you know who to ask. And if there are people that are not close to Masa participants or alumni, you're welcome to join them. And we're going to just start with the first question. I'm just going to draw your attention to the cards that you have on your tables. They are just a reference, are some of the components that make a career development experience. It might contribute to the discussion, it might not. But Masa participants alone might just come up with other answers. But it's just a trigger that you can play with in order to explore what are those components. We're gonna give about 5 to 7 minutes to each one of the questions. Okay? Let's start with the first one. The first question is, what component of your experience had the highest impact on your professional development? Please. Okay, we're just going to stop here for the first question. I would love to hear for just a couple of people about something that you heard or something that you said that contributes to our goal. Can anyone share what came out of the tables? One of the components that contributed to your professional development. Anyone? Yes. Of the experience being meaningful, of you being meaningful to the company.
Them being meaningful in the process.
That is very interesting. Who said that? That's very interesting because there's one of the models that's been used in the career management field today that tries to articulate what are the top 3 components that match the well-being of the employee and the accuracy of hiring of the company is impact, or in other words, how does the employee impact the final product. It doesn't matter what the product is. It can be a line of code, and it could be the way that the chair is built. And the other 2 are a little bit more obvious. It's growth, personal and professional growth, and relationships in the workplace. So it's very interesting that even from a very small, a very short experience, like the 4 months or 10 months experience, there is that feeling of, I haven't just add a line to my CV, I actually had an impact to whatever my company is doing. So that's actually very interesting. Anyone else? Yeah.
I think it very corresponds with what they said about immersive. They talked about the culture and the people and the experience, and you can't have it. You can hear about Israel,
right?
Or people from Israel, and you can be here and fully experience it, the good and the worst, I guess.
Right.
But it won't be without the immersive part.
I agree. I'm going to relate to the good or bad just in a few moments. And that's what we call an authentic connection to Israel, rather than a touristic connection to Israel. Meaning the idea of being here for an immersive program is not to being on a bus and keep touring and touring and touring, which has its own incredible value, but rather is to wake up in your apartment, notice how even today the sink is full of dishes, still leaving them out there, running out to your work, getting on the monitor, arguing with the driver, getting to your company, etc., 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 just like a regular citizen. And I think that there's a lot of value to that for the good and for the bad. For achieve what? So that's a very, very good question. We actually never checked that. We assume that 2 months is enough for a taste, that 4 months and up is optimal. Obviously, a year is ideal. We also we do see in the research that usually, in order to reach that feeling, a longer program is much more productive than a shorter one. But it's almost obvious, I think. There is another variable though, which is the articulation level. I'm going to relate to that towards the end of the session. We're going to move forward to the second question, which is following up to what Amir was saying. The second question is, what component of your experience challenged you the most, and what did you learn from it? We're going to give it another 5 minutes, please.
Like what's true or people have either of them, and then when they are going back to like,
1 minute left.
which barrier, or they'll just like
Okay. So we're going to come back. Yes, some thoughts. What were the main challenges that you can describe?
I think that the main challenge are the different cultural barriers that we have. Like we come from different countries and we start meeting people from all over the world. And sometimes this difference, you think that the other that do something different than you is bad or wrong. And you have to start accepting and be more open-minded and knowing that different is something better, and we can learn a lot of this.
Very interesting. I feel that it's also very related to resilience as a muscle. Going back to what we were saying before, right? Meaning there will always be cultural differences, and I don't think that anyone wants to renounce on their cultural identity in a way or another. Maybe there's a bit of bargaining, right? I'm taking this, I'm leaving that. But I think that there is something to be learned about my way of saying who I am, and understanding if there's any way to find that common ground in a way that is productive to both.
Well, I would say it's communicating. Because I'm from Brazil, my first language is Portuguese, and usually in Israel I'm speaking English, even though I can speak some Hebrew, it's not enough. And if I'm speaking English, Israelis are speaking English to me. We're both speaking a language that's not our first language. So it can be really a mess. So it's really challenging, like, to communicate, but at the same time it makes you grow a lot to understand the culture that belongs to everyone, and how it relates to language.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Luciana from Brazil. One thing that I learned here is that if your boss is very straight with you, it's not because he hates you. It's because it's the Israeli way to work, and that's why I'm working here. I'm working with recruiting, and it's very funny that in Brazil we can ask a lot of different questions than we can ask here for the candidates. So that's why something that I'm learning here in Israel.
Thank you, Luciana. I think that's related to a wider conversation about workplace expectations, right? I mean, you're coming from outside of Israel and you're entering a workplace with a different culture where it's difficult to communicate, and they have their own way to behave, because they come from a specific culture, and also because clearly a local culture in the organization developed with the time, and that sets a whole list of expectations towards you. You got in, but you have to, adapt yourself to whoever we are. We are not going to change ourselves for someone that comes for 4 months or for 8 months. And I think that it's a bit of a challenge for you guys to define what you can get out of it. But there is a lot that you can get out of stretching the muscle and say, yeah, I can be a little bit more like that, or I can just stay without that thing that I'm used to get from my boss in Brazil. Thank you very much. I think I'm going to go with the last question, and I'm going to read it and explain it. The question is, what did you learn from the 5 to 9 experience? I'm going to explain what I mean. When we talk about immersive experiences, especially when we're talking about participants or people coming from outside of Israel to Israel and staying here and living here for 2 months, 4 months, 8 months, 10 months. So we might tend to think about the experience as a schedule. Just as you thought about this conference before you came to the conference, right? There is a schedule, there are sessions, I know, or I'm supposed to know at what time to start. And that's it, that's the program, that's the experience. But I don't think that it actually works like that. There is a 9 to 5. There is a set time where the participants are interning or learning or teaching, etc. But there is also a 5 to 9. There's also an unmediated experience within the Israeli society, within the Israeli landscape, that freedom to roam that we were talking about beforehand, that has a very strong value and where a lot of opportunities lay in terms of personal and professional growth. So the question now to our participants and alumni is, what did you learn dafka from the 5 to 9 experience? Dafka from the part that is not scheduled, that is unmediated, maybe unexpected, maybe a little bit more surprising or spontaneous of your stay in Israel. We're going to give it another 5-6 minutes. Okay, we're going to move forward. Yes, some thoughts about the 5 to 9.
Crazy, right?
We're coming back. I'd love to hear some thoughts about the 5 to 9 and what are you guys getting out of it? Any thoughts or ideas?
In our table will be the sense of moving out of your comfort zone. I mean, I'm summarizing what people said, but it's moving out, changing your comfort zone and experiencing different things, being proactive about things that you want, finding a community of your interest, etc. And being active about it, trying different things.
I think that that's a very interesting point. I like to refer to it as Israel as a sandbox, right? Meaning the fact that a young professional can leave their country and coming here to 2 months, 4 months, 8 months, and they're not exactly coming to a place or to an experience that is high stakes. It's not high stakes. It's not even low stakes, right? They're not coming here to a space that is totally known to them, but it's not also totally strange. They come here within a framework. They have counselors, they have program directors. They are the people that are actually taking care of them throughout their whole program. They are the people who are organizing the program. So there is not the risk of going to a foreign country and being stranded. That is not going to happen, but you still have to work it out. So that area is an area that is actually productive in terms of the discomfort that the experience can cause. And I think that that's actually that area that sparks some sort of growth. Somewhere in the history of the earth, the giraffe had a very, very short neck. And when he started getting taller and taller, it probably hurt. And that's exactly what probably happens with the participants. It does hurt when you have to stretch that neck and understand what else can you reach and what else can you achieve. So thank you. What else? Yes. Brazilian, I can shout.
One thing that helped us a lot is to arrive in Israel with another people from different countries, because everyone feels in the same moment. Like everyone just left home and arrived in Israel and we are in the same apartment. So we need to start to organize our apartment. Let's see what we have, what we don't have. Let's go to the shuk and talk to the man to buy something to clean the floor. So we are in the same boat. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but it's it makes our experience easier because we all arriving together and have the same inputs when we're arriving.
Also, just to add what she said, I feel the same. I felt I was here 5 months in Haifa, doing an internship, and it was very like the same with people all around the world, speaking different languages with different cultures, and we together managed how to solve like the common issues we have, like where can we buy food, in which language also, because they speak or Arab or Russian or Hebrew, and you have to manage how to do it in the shuk. It's very difficult sometimes because nobody speaks English in the shuk, or how to go to some place, which apps do you have to use, or where it's this place or that place, and not everybody speaks English, and it's very nice to have people like in the same, doing the same, living with you in the same level that you are, because you don't feel lonely. Like I know I have my family 12,000 kilometers away, but here I made another family with the people who were living with me the last 5 months.
And people here, like here, I think in Israel people are very like open to talk with you. Like they are very straight, but if you need something, if you are lost, you can speak with everyone in the street because everyone will help you and like want to be your friend. One time I was like in the beach and someone just came to me and like wanted to be my friend. So,
I might give a couple of other interpretations to that. Thank you. I do wanna, we have just a few minutes left. I do wanna just list a couple of things that came up during the session. I wanna remind us of the purpose of the session. Our goal at the end of the day, you guys with me?
No, we're thinking about
stories.
Yeah, no, that's the peak of the. So I think that our goal is to unpack what makes an immersive career development experience, and I think that we said a lot of things. I'll just mention those that I remember. Whether it is having a component of productive discomfort, of the possibility of stretch your abilities. It could be gaining new skills, or it could be to just going around in a city that you don't know, but when it's structured, when you have a program around you. It could be around having a community together with you that can support you, and when you can share information and dilemmas and challenges and find a solution together. It could be around the idea of marking what are the cultural differences and trying to find a way, in a very conscious way, to deal with those differences and learn something from it. And those are just a few things. Now imagine some of these things are unique to Israel in the way that we can overcome them. Some of these things can be replicated, and I think that that's an interesting way to think about it, even within the framework of OJT, of on-job training, whether you can create and design the experience of onboarding for a new employee and allowing him or her to experience those kind of experiences and see if that stretches and widens their professional capacity or their personal growth. I want to add 2 points. One of them I already mentioned it. I'm sorry, I'll just skip a couple of questions. The first one is what I said before. There is no way to design an immersive experience without looking at everything that the landscape can offer you. And we tend to think that the things that are very strictly related to the goal of the program, right? You're coming here to a career development opportunity, so you have to intern, you have those 7-8 hours during the day, and you're gonna have a workshop about how to build your LinkedIn page and how to nail an interview, etc., etc. Those things are incredibly valuable. But the landscape, especially in Israel, and again, I'm talking about the social, the cultural, the spiritual landscape, can offer so much more that is directly related to the potential growth of the participant, and the mapping of that landscape is a tough work to do, to try and find the people, the organizations, the initiatives that can contribute to that career development experience in a very concrete way, but it adds so much more than just saying, come, intern, it's going to be okay, it's going to be good. And I feel that there's something that is organic to the way that the programs work. And the second thing, which I think is crucial, We evaluate our program and we try to understand what works more, what works less, but also if there's correlation between things that happen in the programs that lead to success or to satisfaction of the participants. And one of the things that we found is that articulation leads to identity. What does that mean? Just in a minute. The more that a participant can stop several times during the program and say, articulate clearly, gain clarity, I'm having this challenge, I'm dealing with it in the following way, I'm failing or I'm succeeding, and that's what I'm learning out of it, in a very detailed way, in a very accurate way, that understanding raises the chances of professional development and personal growth, raises the chances of having a productive experience, but also makes the experience a part of their identity. I went through a transformative experience because I came to Israel, I went through those challenges, through those moments, through those landscapes. That's what I got out of it, and that's why the experience has been transformative and productive to me. And I think that there's something that is a bit countercultural. We're very used to running and run to our next achievement, to our next challenge. And this one says something else. Keep running, but take one moment, once in a while, just to articulate what's going on and see how is that becoming part of your identity. How is that making you 10% better as a professional or maybe even as a person. I'm just going to leave you with my details if you want to reach out or if we can help in any way. I do want to thank first and foremost our participants and online that have been here. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. And thank you all for being with us for the past hour. I hope it's been productive for you as well.